We do give thanks and praise to our God, our help, who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask, think, or imagine. We are grateful. I am grateful for this opportunity to be with you in this Advocacy Summit for Bread for the World. I am grateful to our leaders who have gathered us together as people of faith and belief in another world that is possible. I am more than joyous to be with you with this year's focus on investing in children to transform the future. On behalf of the board, the staff, the volunteers all over the country with the Children's Defense Fund, I bring you greetings. And we express, of course, our gratitude for being a part and partners with Bread for the World in this mission that is faith-infused, informed, and grounded in order to serve, in order to advocate for a better world for all of our children. I invite your attention for a few moments of reflection on a passage of scripture that can be found two places in the Bible, but I'm going to invite you to Isaiah chapter 37. And I'll read for your hearing the first through the third verses. Isaiah 37, verses 1 through 3, read this way in the New International Version of the Bible. When King Hezekiah heard this, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and went into the temple of the Lord. He sent Eliakim, the palace administrator, Shebna, the secretary, and the leading priest, all wearing sackcloth, to the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos. He told them, this is what Hezekiah says. This is a day of distress and rebuke and disgrace, as when children come to the moment of birth and there is no strength to deliver them. So ends the reading. This passage of scripture finds us in a unique and similar moment. The precarious posture and position of being on the precipice of birthing something new, something great, something grand, something transformative in the life of a community, a nation, a country. And yet, this unique position, of course, is also one of travail. It is the point where we will decide whether we go forth in possibility and promise, or whether we will indeed shrivel and perhaps even die. The metaphor that is given to us in the context of this text and the voice of Hezekiah is one that conjures in us, in the context of our theme, image of maternal health. Will the mother make it through this critical moment where we have come to the point of birth, yet without strength? Not only is the life of the mother in jeopardy, but also the future of the child. This metaphor, this image that is given to us in scripture here, also in 2 Kings, is given to us as a picture also of a question of child well-being and thriving. This possibility that is to come forth has everything to do with the promise in scripture of those who will come after, the promise of progeny, the promise of a future, if we are indeed willing to invest in it. And all of this comes to us, this metaphor comes to us, as it does in the scripture, at a point of travail in the time of the nation. This is a time of distress and rebuke and indeed disgrace, a time when we have found that our systems that are meant to care for us actually create greater division, a time when we have found that those who have been given the work of health even find themselves, as they are given to mission, in a space and a place where they are distinguishing, because of how systems work, between those who have and those who have not, and thus those who live and those who will not. We find ourselves in a moment where the lessons that we could have and should have learned long ago are made known to the world, it is laid bare that 17 million children needed the assistance of SNAP last year. It is laid bare that 1 in 7 children in America live in food insecure homes where people do not have enough to eat in order to be nourished. Children do not have enough sustenance in order to learn. It is made known the disparities between Black and Hispanic children who are more likely to live in these food insecure homes. It is made known that even the supports that we created 20 years ago, things like the child tax credit to invest in families to make sure children have support, are insufficient, because a check that comes once a year in the context of the filing of taxes does not meet the grocery bills that come once a month in a household full of children. This is a time of distress and rebuke and disgrace. And yet, we have found in it an awareness of possibility, an awareness of concern, an awareness of delight in that people have seen the need in the faces of their dear brothers and sisters. They have seen the need and disparities as it relates to our children and done something about it. We have come to a point of possibility because of the passage of the American Rescue Plan. We have come to a point of possibility because of debate and discussion of the American Families Plan. We have come to a point of possibility as we finally understand that people are part of infrastructure. We have come to a point of possibility as we consider bold investments in the American Jobs Act. We have come to a point of possibility. It is as if we have come to a point of birth, a long period of darkness and gestation where we have come to learn some things about ourselves, and the first glimpses and the crown of new possibility have come forth in new legislation because of faith-filled people across the country calling for such, digging in on our values and articulating the vision that God would have for all God's children, marginalized children flourishing, leaders prioritizing their well-being, and communities wielding the power to ensure that they thrive. It is as if we have come, even in the midst of a moment of disgrace and rebuke and distress, to a point of new birthing possibility. But question is there strength to push the child out? Is there strength to live into the possibility of this moment where those who have feigned not understanding or knowing about the disparities now must own that they know? Do we have strength in this moment where these disparities in poverty, the reality of hunger, the malnutrition of our children has come to the fore? Is there strength to push forward the kind of change that we need in this moment? Is there strength to live out a people infrastructure? Is there strength to move to universal school meals? Is there strength to make sure that we make the changes that we believe can happen as it relates to child poverty, the reduction in half of child poverty because of the expanded and adjusted child tax credit permanent? Is there strength to push the possibility forward? If not, the well-being of our children is at stake. If not, the travail of the mothers, of the fathers, the grandmamas, the big mamas, and the parents, their travail may indeed be in vain. And all of us risk the potential of loss and death. Hezekiah has said rightly, This is a point of possibility in a moment of distress. But Hezekiah has also done rightly. Hezekiah, after putting on the clothes of sackcloth, went into the place of the Lord to pray. Hezekiah did not just call forth commentary on the moment or just read the newspaper. Hezekiah, in his authority, went to the place of prayer and asked God for God's intervention. Hezekiah asked what to do. It did the right thing and going to pray himself, but then Hezekiah sent a word to seek the counsel of the prophets. I pray every day. I pray multiple times. I walk in prayer. I believe that God hears, and I am grateful for this opportunity to come in to the space of the prophets virtually, in hybridity, in the context of this digital platform, and to seek and to say what God has said. So I stand in that posture and seek your engagement. I come to you, Isaiah, those who are gathered on this call. I come to you, sons of Amos, in order to invite your intervention, because prayer is one thing, but engagement with the word of prophecy is another. I come asking, what do you discern that the Lord has for us to do? Because I do not believe that God would show us this point of distress and disgrace and rebuke of our nation and our children and not have a word for us. Yes, we ought pray. We ought seek prophetic counsel. And then there is a vision and work for us to do. Here I'll come and I'll just say what I believe. I know that God intervenes in the context of the text. I know that later God delivers, but I also know that there is more human interaction between here and the end of the chapter. I'll leave that for you to read yourself. And I want to suggest that if there will be strength, then there is something required of us. I believe it is required of us to engage in power building activity beyond the advocacy work that we have been doing in the past. It is time for us to invest in organizing and mobilizing communities so that we can let those who are in the birthing room know what God has to say. It is important for us to find, to root in, and to become political homes for God's people. It is time out for us organizing the organized and organizing the organizers. It is a must that we invest in the organization of our people. Mamas and grandmamas who are engaging in the birthing ritual, those who see the issues of maternal health first and foremost and pay for the disparities with their lives, pushing forth their voices will give us the strength to push forth the changes in legislation. Not only must we invest in organizing, but we must be committed to amplification. And this is a tough one for the prophets. Amplification suggests that there are voices that are more important than ours, that we must demur. We must, as we say in the context of the Baptist tradition, we must decrease so that they might increase. The voices of children, the voices of youth that must be mobilized, amplified, and organized in order to get to this legislation, because the moral cases we have attempted to make for caring for children for so long have fallen on deaf ears of a lack of morality and amorality in the context of our country. And so, while we must root and ground in our own values, we must move with a focus on power. Power of voices of our children and youth, the power of parents who care for them in order to advance legislation. And I've got a couple of specific things I'll ask you for, and I'm done. Number one, we need to move powerfully to make the child tax credit expansion permanent in this moment so that we can live with the possibility of every other English-speaking nation in the country, every other English-speaking nation on the globe, developed nation on the globe that has some type of family allowance. This is not new. This is not outside the norm. This is something that powerful countries committed to their futures do. We must move with power to advance universal school meal legislation to all children. There is no reason that everything in public school is free except for the food. If we will commit to making sure children have nourishment, then they can be educated. If we will commit to making sure they have nourishment, then they will be able to thrive and be healthy in their communities. And this happens by investment in the home through the child tax credit and by expansion to the only system we've ever created to care for children in schools. I end as I begin. Grateful for the moment to speak with the prophets, calling and seeking your counsel and your action, but noting that this is a time of distress and rebuke and disgrace. But it is a moment of possibility if we can muster the strength to push the child out. Let us strengthen, let us organize, let us mobilize to be the people God has called us to be, to invest in our children in order to transform the future. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer.